What is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with Colby Conway. We are here for the NFL Week 7 Thursday Night Football preview. We're going to take a look at tonight's match between the Broncos and the Saints. We're going to be here to answer your fantasy football start sit questions. You guys get ready for Week 7. If you have any betting questions, DFS questions, showdown questions, Colby and I are here to help you guys out with those lineup decisions. Colby, my guy, man, how are we doing?
I am doing well. It's one of those, this is where we're really tested, throughout the all off season, sometimes with football, the old saying is, what a bad day fishing is still better than a day at work or whatever.
True.
And then we come here all off season. I will take any football over having no football. Now we come to week 7 and we get Spencer Rattler versus Bo Nix. I'm being really tested with being excited for this Thursday night game.
Yeah, I was saying on a different show I was on, like, we would have been really excited about this last year in the college football world, right? A Spencer Rattler Bo Nix showdown, like that would have been prime time television, and it's prime time television here today, but not in the way that we want to see it. We have a lot of injuries on both sides of the football here. Defensively, there's no Patrick Surtain for the Broncos taking out their top cornerback. For the Saints, there's no Derek Carr, there's no Chris Olave, there's no Rashid Shaheed, there's no Taysom Hill even. And tonight would have been a night where we might have actually wanted to see some Taysom Hill on the field. So for your showdown lineup construction, I'm sure it looks pretty gross. We do have Kendre Miller active for the first time this season, so there is that for the Saints here this week, behind Alvin Kamara and maybe ahead of or behind Jamal Williams and their running back pecking order here. So we're here to talk about it. We're here to answer your questions. We certainly appreciate you guys all tuning in. We'll be here for as long as you need us for. Initial thoughts, though, what are we looking at here tonight if you had to give a lean towards a side here, Colby?
I'm pretty confident in Denver in this one. I think short week for New Orleans. Spencer Rattler was exposed a little bit in his debut. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more, but we'll get into some numbers when he wasn't blitzed versus when he was, and the numbers were rather stark. So despite Denver also missing one of its key defensive pieces in Patrick Surtain, that is about as equal as about the 9 people that the Saints are missing. So the Saints are too beat up on a short week. And I just trust, believe it or not, I just trust Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos right now more than the current state of affairs there in New Orleans. So I would take the Broncos, and I would take them to cover.
Yeah, Broncos currently 3-point road favorites here tonight. We had a 37.5 game total. So a far cry from what we said we had last week. 49ers Seahawks went out and put 60 points on the board. I'd be surprised if we hit the over tonight. The under is the more popular play here this evening. For stretches of last week, Bo Nix had like 17 yards passing. Like, he was doing absolutely nothing. Did pick it up a little bit in the second half. He does have some mobility. I think many were surprised to see how the Saints ended up playing against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay still hung 51 up on their defense, but the Saints came through with 27 actual points scored in that game. Spencer Rattler did throw for 243, so has some mobility to his game. So maybe there's something there, but I'm kind of with you. I don't anticipate this being a fun game to watch. As much as we do enjoy watching football here as part of the job, this is going to be one of those Thursday night footballs where maybe you're watching or doing something else and it's kind of on, and you kind of look maybe when the announcers get excited, but we're not expecting, I think, that to be too far, too often here this evening. I see Ann in the chat. I see Mo in the chat here. We'll bring the chat overlay up for all of you. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to throw them in there. Hit that like, hit that share, hit that subscribe button over on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube and X channels. Free way to support the work we're doing here over at Fantasy Alarm. And kicking it off saying hello, and then gives us our first question of the day. Needs one in a PPR. If Javonte Williams, Romeo Doubs, Jerry Jeudy. If you had to pick one of those 3, which direction would we go here?
I think I would actually go Dobbs, only because I think that Houston-Green Bay game is the most lucrative in terms of a fantasy bonanza, as I'll call it, and some points being scored. Dobbs did score twice last week, albeit only on a handful of targets. And look at that Houston defense right now. Both linebackers in Al-Shaair and Toa didn't practice all week. We already know Kamari Lassiter, I don't think he's officially been ruled out, but I'll tell you he's not playing, which means it's Derek Stingley, and I think they're going to start D'Angelo Ross on the other side. And last week, it was actually, of all teams, it was New England Patriots that kind of exposed Eric Murray and Jalen Petrie a little bit in slot coverage. So if they move the receivers around there, not sure if Dobbs gets into the slot too much, but I think I would trust him the most because I can't trust Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Did for a couple years, but obviously that ship
Right.
failed.
Yeah.
And then with Javonte tonight, this game is just going to be ugly. The team wants to get Estime involved. I would rather take Dubs as a three-headed monster in a receiving room led by Jordan Love versus Javonte as a part of a potentially three-headed monster in a Denver backfield.
Yeah, and listen, Romeo Dubs and I talked about this with Howard Bender on the NFL DFS show, which you guys can all check out on Fantasy Alarms, a YouTube channel as well. People don't want Romeo Dubs to be a thing because Christian Watson is a sexier play. Jaden Reed is a sexier play. Dontavian Wicks, everybody loves him as well. But Romeo Dubs is sort of like the go-to guy for Jordan Love more often than not. He's the reliable hands receiver. He moves the chains. And then last week, he popped up for 2 touchdowns because you get in the red zone. You go to the guy you trust to make the plays. So I'm with you there. I would go Romeo Dubs here today. It just feels like not only the safer play, but game theory as well. It feels like that one could be a bit of a shootout between Houston and Green Bay. So give me Romeo Dubs there. And then Javonte Williams or Devontae Adams is going to be making his debut for the Jets Sunday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some people are surprised that Devontae is going to be available for this game, and wondering if he's going to be a decoy. In my brain, Devontae Adams has been learning the Jets playbook for 2 weeks, right? Like this trade was probably in the hopper for a little bit. The hamstring injury was just a way to keep him away from the team. And he's probably had that Jets playbook for a little while. And if it's Aaron Rodgers, they know what they're doing there, right? Like it's the same offensive system. He knows the play calls. I don't think Devontae Adams is going to be too much of a decoy. All of a sudden, the hamstring is good to go. So no, I would rather play Devontae Adams here over Javonte Williams.
It's like riding a bike with Aaron Rodgers and his old friends. Why do you think he keeps recycling the same old dudes through? Yeah. Why? Because especially with Devontae Adams, he doesn't need to know the playbook to understand, hey, remember when we used to do those little 15-yard back shoulder routes? Right. Let's bring that back. And at the very least, if there is anything I know for certain, and there's very few things of that, Devontae Adams is scoring in this game. Remember all the times that you'd have a Green Bay running back. You got to the 2-yard line. Rodgers takes one step back. There goes the hip flip. Quick little slant on the end right there to Devontae Adams. At the very least, Devontae Adams is scoring a touchdown this week. At the very least,
I like it. I mean, listen, we saw what Rodgers with Alan Lazard brings him in. Alan Lazard immediately becomes a fantasy viable wide receiver week in, week out. Now got Devontae Adams. All we're missing is James Jones, Randall Cobb, and Jordy Nelson, and we're back in action here. Green Bay East. So go Devontae, go Romeo Dubs there for you, Ann. Mojo's got a defensive question. We got the Bengals or the Broncos. Bengals got their matchup against Cleveland this week. They're in Cleveland for that one. Of course, Denver on the road here against the Saints. What are your thoughts on the defensive matchups?
Honestly, in this one, you can't really go too wrong with either. I like both, but I can't believe I'm saying this. Instead of picking on a rookie, I think I'm going to pick on Deshaun Watson. Okay. Amari Cooper's not in town, and there's sometimes it seems like he sits in the pocket, and either he bails too early or he's looking to make that heroic play, and it's just not there. So I actually like the Bengals to get ahead early in this one. Browns are going to be forced to throw the ball, and if this isn't Houston Texans Deshaun Watson. This is Cleveland Brown Deshaun Watson, where if we can get him to where he can throw and those Bengals pass rushers can pin the ears back, I'm going to go Bengals here, believe it or not.
Yeah, there's something about Cleveland that just saps all talent out of quarterbacks here. Obviously, Baker Mayfield, career resurgence once he was get a way to get out of that organization there. Obviously Cleveland this week, their offense going to be looking a little different. Not only do they have Nick Chubb back, but we could see Nyheim Hines available for them as well. I mean, I don't know the usage for either of those two plays here, but I mean, they're going to be at least available and to some level, but I'm with you there. I think I'd rather take the Bengals against Deshaun Watson there than Denver here on the Thursday night. Then he's got, should I also toss in Bub Means and roll the dice? I feel like I got to switch it up. Well, who would you play over Bub Means, I guess? Or who is Bub Means playing over, Mojo? Let us know what the swap would be. Obviously, he is a guy that could be in line for number 1 targets on this offense like today. So we'll see. We'll see what you're going to be looking at. It's also standard league for you there. And needs 2 of Dubs, D-Hop, and Bub Means. Probably going to have a lot of Bub Means questions here today.
Yeah, I think so. So we're definitely going with Romeo just because I talked him up in the early part there. Oh man, I don't know about D Hop. He seems like he's going to be the next kind of notable receiver traded. Really against Buffalo, you want slot receivers. Hopkins does get in there a little bit, but Tyler Boyd primarily mans the slot. I might actually roll the dice and go Bub Means. He did lead the way last week, and both of those receiving options are out. And I think Means was 5 for 45 in a score.
Yeah,
I think is what it was on like 8 targets. So if he's going to be the top targeted guy, New Orleans is going to have to move the ball at some point other than Kamara. So I think I'm going to go Romeo and Bub. I think that's where I'm settling.
Yeah, that works for me. I got no love for this for this Titans passing offense. I'm sure D Hop, well, he's probably not regretting it. He took the money, right? Him and Calvin Ridley took their money and they went to Tennessee, and Will Levis just hasn't been able to pan out yet in year 2. So no faith in Ann's Saints tonight. I mean, limited faith. I like Alvin Kamara. I think Alvin Kamara is going to be an absolute volume monster today by no choice of his own. They're just going to have to give him the football. And then she's got Freiermuth or Hunter Henry for a Sunday question here. Again, Freiermuth going up against the Jets. Hunter Henry Sunday morning against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I think I really want to go Hunter Henry with Drake May. It's kind of hard to go against Freiermuth with Russell Wilson probably starting, and he's no stranger to the tight ends. But it seems like in recent, at least last year with Russell in Denver, like we all wanted Cortland Sutton to be like the dominant alpha, and he never truly separated in terms of targets, it seemed. Wilson wanted to spread the ball around. I'm intrigued by Hunter Henry with Drake May. And honestly, at this point, there's times where I'm just like hashtag anybody against Jacksonville because everybody seems to do well. And while they may not be like overly generous in terms of fantasy points to the tight end position, Jacksonville is the only team in the league right now to have allowed 4 scores there. So maybe let's hope for 5 for 50 and a touchdown from Hunter Henry.
Yeah, listen, he threw a touchdown pass on Hunter Henry last week. They kind of had a nice design to play where they had Henry sort of stay in and chip, but then break out. And Houston defense did not follow him, as you know, as a Houston Texans fan there. So,
well aware, John.
They just left him wide open. So you got that going for you. Mojo, the 3 options for memes are DeMario Douglas, Jerry Jeudy. I don't know how you go away from DeMario Douglas after what happened last week. He gave some comments afterwards that like he was ready to just like give it all for Drake May here, and May and Means and Douglas clearly have some at least initial sort of repertoire there. When he filled in again that Jets game, a couple of his first pass attempts went to DeMario Douglas. So I think DeMario Douglas is someone you're going to want to plug into your lineups over Bub Means for me. Just the upside of that matchup, the quarterback play, and the other options really there. So what do you think?
Yeah, led Patriots in target share last week in that game against Houston, where he also had that long touchdown. And again, anybody against Jacksonville, they're so generous to wide receivers on the year. If I'm not mistaken, most yards allowed to the position, second most fantasy points per game. I know those international games suck. They tend to suck more often than not, but man, I love picking against that Jacksonville secondary.
Yeah, some people are wondering, do you think it's an advantage for Jacksonville to have stayed over there, or do you think it's a disadvantage because they've been basically living out of a suitcase now for a couple of weeks?
It's an advantage in that Doug Peterson got about a 2-week vacation before he's left there after this game.
Fair enough. Broncos defense, question mark for James here. Again, we're fine with Denver if you don't have other options. Denver's been a pretty elite. I was actually super disappointed in their performance last week, home versus the Chargers. Give the Chargers the benefit of the doubt there. Obviously, they were coming off the bye. They had some time to prepare. It was a divisional matchup, but I thought Denver would have shown up a bit more, and they did not show up defensively in that one. But I'd be willing to run it back here this week. Again, they have the ability to get after the cornerback. I understand Surtain's not there, but still a pretty good overall defense there. Andrew, do we think Valet plays today? Yeah, was he not going to play today?
I don't think he was on the injury report all week, so I think he's back in action.
Yeah, I think he's good to go. I'm going to do a quick check here, but I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, not only is he going to play today, I think there's a good chance he might be one of their leading receivers. He's kind of been that guy in the 2 games that he has been active this season, for Denver. Denver really doesn't have a number 2 wide receiver, right? They've sort of held, sort of live tryouts, as our guy Andrew Cooper likes to talk about. Like, we know Cortland Sutton's their number 1. They don't really have a tight end, and they haven't really have an established number 2. Game in terms of overall snap counts. Last week we saw him play 62%, played 50% in week 1 when he had the 8 for 8 there, 4 catches on 6 targets last week. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't play. So if you're asking whether or not to play him, if you're in showdowns, yeah, I would plug him in a showdown lineup tonight. No problems. If you're talking season long, again, give us some of your options there, Andrew, and we'd be happy to kind of help you out there. So again, if you have any more questions, feel free to throw them in there. Oh, well, he was inactive because he was hurt. So that's why he's back. He got hurt after the first week. So, but he's good. It's good to go. Not on the injury report. So you can certainly go ahead and hit the like button. Certainly appreciate you, Ann. Definitely hit that like, subscribe, and share. We got the 7-day free trial going on. If you can see the scroll down at the bottom, go to fanslam.com/win. Promo code Let's Go gets that first month after the 7-day free trial for less than $20. 7-day free trial includes all of our content, not just for NFL. Includes our NHL, NBA starts next week. MMA pay-per-view this weekend. NASCAR still going on, so you'll get access to all of that content. I took down in NHL GPP on Tuesday, Colby, first place, using our projections and playbook there. So it carries over, it translates. We're not just a football program over here at Fantasy. We got the goods to cover all the sports. So take advantage of our 7-day free trial offer right now. I'll throw the QR code up there for everybody here so they can scan that one. Sorry, Colby, covered your face. You can scan the QR code, fanslam.com/win, promo code Let's Go, to take advantage of our 7-day free trial going on right now. Andrew, is Alvin the highest owned captain today? I would imagine so. Right? I got to assume he's going to be. I mean, who else are you playing? He's going to be in every lineup. He's probably 99% rostered, on this slate. So I would find a way to fit him in as your captain. He's going to lead the team in carries. He's probably going to lead the team in targets. He's been close to leading the team in receptions the last couple of weeks. So, this is a spot where if you're going to be different, you're probably not different at the captain place with Alvin Kamara today. I would make sure he's certainly in your lineups here. So, again, if you have any more questions, throw them in there. Let's talk a little betting here, Colby. We talked earlier our thoughts on the spread. The line I'm seeing now in DraftKings is 2.5. So Denver was open as a 3. They're now down to 2.5 road favorites here. The over/under is 37. Mentioned we both like Denver. We're both going the under for this game here today. If we're looking at some player props, anything for you maybe that sticks out that you're looking to sprinkle a little on?
Yeah, I think the one I'm actually going to go with is Juwan Johnson. I've settled in on his receptions. It was 2.5 earlier in the day. It's still there, but the odds are down to -155 now. But I think if you even do a same game parlay or kind of double up with him and go with the receiving yards as well, I think he's in a pretty good spot. Last week, 3 for 48, 5 for 31 the week before. I mean, sure, -2 or 2.5 receptions at -155. I like that. And then for his, I wouldn't quite ladder his yards, but 25 plus is -155 and 40 plus is +170. So I like it here. It's a good spot. Saints have been relatively generous to tight ends on the year. Yeah. So I like Juwan Johnson. And honestly, at this point, you're going to have to pick which New Orleans guy kind of pops off a little bit. And when given the chance, Johnson's been relatively good at times in his career. So I'm looking at Juwan Johnson.
Yeah, I'm good with that. The last couple of weeks we've seen the snap count start to jump for him as well. The targets and receptions have been there, and again, they just lack pass catchers right now. Could see him go out there. I like the 2.5. I did the underdog prize picks and sleeper content for Fantasy Alarm here this week. I took the same thing. I took the 25.5 receiving yards for him. But you could very well go the 2.5 receptions there. I kind of like the receptions for a lot of the players in this game just because they're all so low. Alvin Kamara was 4.5. I liked that. Javonte Williams was 3.5. I like that. Again, numbers that they've both gone over in 3 of the last 4 weeks or so. Javonte Williams has gone over his receptions prop in 4 of the 6 weeks this season. We know that Sean Payton offense, they like to throw to the running back. So I'm kind of in on both running backs this week for their receptions props. So you can take a look. Again, over at fantasy.com, we have our best bets article from Howard Bender. We have our sleeper prize picks and underdog articles over there as well. that you guys can check out to get some of today's top player props. Mojo wants to know which running back should you go with, Ty Chandler, Tucker, or Garendo for a flex spot this week. Mason did practice today, so you got to watch out on the Isaac Garendo thing. Tucker's kind of interesting because they came out today and said they want to use all three running backs when healthy. Never what you want to hear. And then we don't think Aaron Jones is going to play this week, but is a really tough matchup going up against Detroit. And this is a standard league question here, Colby.
I mean, I think at this point you hope Jones doesn't play and you get Chandler. Take him in the tough matchup because at least touches are guaranteed. The other two, it's a little bit risky. This is not the answer you want to hear. I'd hold out hope that they hold out Aaron Jones in the tough matchup and go Chandler. But if not, I think I'd go Tucker. This is very reluctantly.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you there. We have the two Monday Night Football games on schedule this week. I didn't really understand why we needed two Monday Night Footballs for Week 7, but the NFL always willing to capitalize on an audience. So we got two primetime Monday Night Football games. Tampa Bay is home versus Baltimore here this week. Rachaad White, I think. Is he limited at practice today? Let me see the latest update.
He's trending towards playing.
Yeah. So certainly a messy backfield, but the way the guy performed last week, you got to think maybe they would give him a little bit more of a leg, though, especially the way Rachaad White hasn't performed well this season. McConkey or Addison for a half PPR?
I'm gonna go. They both are actually in really good matchups. I've been burned by McConkey so many times now at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm going Addison. That Minnesota-Detroit game, I wrote about it in the DFS wide receiver coach over at Fantasy Alarm, so I hope I get this right. I think the last 5 matchups between these two teams have gone for 50+, I believe, if I have that right.
Seems decent.
I'm expecting a fantasy bonanza there. And if Detroit tries to sell out to stop Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison is more than capable of taking advantage. So I am going to go Jordan Addison.
Yeah, Addison for me as well. Sam Darnold's the cover of the quarterback coach this week. He is my top quarterback for the DFS slate, given the pricing for him here. I'm a big proponent of teams off buys, home teams off buys, especially. Then you get an offensive-minded coach and Kevin O'Connell, being able to game plan for a matchup. I know this is a divisional matchup, and sometimes we see divisional teams play kind of tighter, tougher games. And then we saw San Francisco, Seattle hang 60 points last week. So could go either way, but Detroit secondary is not very good. All the focus will be on Justin Jefferson. I like Jordan Addison a lot this week. So I'm with you there. Tootsie in here saying, hey, what's up? And then we got Lex, a running back in a flex. Singletary, Bucky Irving. Ramondre Stevenson did not practice, and they're leaving tomorrow to go to London. So that's a bit questionable. Pittman and Bub Means needs a running back and a flex of that group.
I did not see the Ramondre Stevenson news because he was the one he was my slam dunk pick because I like running backs. Again, anybody against Jacksonville. Yeah. That's where we're at. I'm trying to see the injury report. What's Devin Singletary?
I think he got a limited practice in.
Yeah, so he should be fine. Eagles are a little bit tougher, but he just gets the ball so much. So if Singletary's playing, I'm going him. I would love to go Michael Pittman, but it sounds like not Joe Flacco is under center, so I just can't trust Anthony Richardson at this point. Why couldn't Ramondre just practice today and be fine? It would have been Singletary and Ramondre, but if that's number one if Ramondre plays. If Ramondre doesn't play, I'm going to go Singletary, and I'm actually going to go.
Maybe Irving, I guess, at this point.
Yeah,
right?
The wheels are really turning in. I keep coming back to, but if I don't know.
We Thursday think it's going to be Anthony Richardson, right? All signs are pointing to Anthony Richardson, but we thought that was last week too, and then they went to Joe Flacco. I do think it's a bit interesting. Flacco as a starter or since kind of retaking over. The Colts are 2-1 with him as the quarterback. He has 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 65% completion percentage, a 102 quarterback rating. He isn't the reason they're losing football games. Anthony Richardson, that offense looks pretty bad. With no Jonathan Taylor, I almost feel like you should keep Joe Flacco in there because you're going to need to win by throwing, and Anthony Richardson has not proven the ability to do that yet. So it's curious to see if come Sunday, if we actually see Richardson under center as the guy, or if it's going to be Flacco. You can kind of wait this one out, obviously, because it is only Thursday here, but Bub Means would be the one we're not playing. So I guess that would be your Thursday question of that group. So,
yeah. Yeah. Again, Singletary, Mondre, if Mondre plays. If not, I'll go Singletary and Irving. I don't feel good about that second spot if it's not
Sure.
Ramondre,
And then, of course, Lex, come back on Sunday morning. Myself and Andrew Cooper there from 11 o'clock to noon. Any updates on those situations, we'll be able to help you out injury-wise there. Kind of talking about some of the top stories. We hit, obviously, on the Devontae Adams trade, but Amari Cooper moved as well from Cleveland to Buffalo. We don't know if Cooper is going to be available for this game, which would make more sense for a team that wasn't colluding to make a trade, as Devontae Adams and the Jets and the Raiders likely were. So what's your take on the impact that Amari Cooper now has going to Buffalo?
He is going to take over that Keon Coleman role. That's what's going to happen. He's going to be the true X and really the alpha in that offense. Khalil Shakir goes and hangs out in the slot. And then Keon Coleman, maybe he can be the other receiver and they can take some pressure off of him. It's really interesting. Obviously, I follow a lot of Texans folks on my timeline over on X. And it's funny how a lot of them are kind of talking about like the Bills tried to pretend that they didn't need an X receiver and a true alpha. And they let Diggs go. They made it 5 or 6 weeks into the season. They're like, nah, we got to go get one. But ultimately, it's a really good move. At the very least, Cooper is smooth as butter on his routes. He has had some drops this year, but hopefully that could just be Watson or just get me out of Cleveland issue.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's there. I really like the landing spot for Cooper. And I mean, really, given with Deshaun Watson as his quarterback, there's very few spots in the leagues where he would have went that would have hurt his fantasy value.
There were some stats I saw out on Twitter. People were tweeting out that Amari Cooper led the league in uncatchable air yards, which is like,
I believe it.
Not right, like not his fault. People were kind of pointing out similar numbers for OBJ when he was with Cleveland and when he moved on to the Rams. You're like, oh, he's washed. But then you were looking at all the kind of like advanced metrics almost, and it's like, yeah, well, he had the number of like the most uncatchable passes thrown by Baker Mayfield to him. So like, not his problem. He's going to a better team. Maybe he'll perform. Same thing now with Amari Cooper. We were very surprised when they moved on from Stephon Diggs that they didn't make a move in Buffalo to bring in a legitimate replacement to him. They're like, we got Dalton Kincaid, and then we'll bring in Curtis Samuel and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and maybe Khalil Shakir, and hey, we'll draft Keon Coleman, and they'll surely just replace, Stephon Diggs as the number one guy. And very early on, it's obviously was very apparent to them as well. Nope, that's not the way this is going to work. And they went out there and got a top wide receiver for Josh Allen. I have a couple of shares. I obviously immediately went to check to see if I had any Amari Cooper in best balls. I do, thankfully. Don't have him in any fantasy teams this year, though, so won't be able to take advantage of that. KP says he just traded Dobbins, Wilson, and Nakua for Breece Hall, Neighbors, and Mooney. And we want to know how we did.
Traded Dobbins, Garrett Wilson, and Puka for Breece, Malik Neighbors, and Darnell Mooney. I like
might
the
have
Breece
the two
side.
best players in that trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Breece and Neighbors.
Yeah, and think about it this way. You traded Dobbins, who might start – Kamani Vidal might start getting a little bit involved. You have Garrett Wilson, who's now wide receiver 1B, and Puka, who's coming back from a knee issue. This is from back in the preseason, too. So this is not just like a week one thing. This is prior to week one that this happened. And, the Rams aren't exactly playing well, so they're going to let him get fully healthy for elite alpha RB1, elite alpha wide receiver 1, and Darnell Mooney, who's the wide receiver 2 for an Atlanta team that is allergic to playing games under 50 points. So I really like the latter side of that, the Breece, Neighbors, and Mooney side. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think that's the way I would go as well. Good trade. Again, I think you might have gotten two best plays there, so no arguments. Who do we like for an anytime touchdown today? What are the odds on no touchdown score today? Let's check that one out.
I will throw in, while I'm looking at it here, we talk about the props. Believe it or not, Devon Villay, 3.5 receptions. The over is plus 125. And in the 2 games he's played, he's racked up 14 targets, caught 12 of them, 4 receptions in each game. So that's another one I would look at. But anytime touchdown score, I mean, if you want to eat the chalk, I mean, Kamara at minus 105 in this game environment actually is pretty good, considering that he is the most matchup proof or game script proof guy on this entire slate. For him only to be at minus 105, I think that's one that you could hit. I'm going to keep hyping the Juwan Johnson train, plus 380 for him. And then maybe you go Villay and just hope he gets the targets. He's down at plus 425. Audric Estime maybe near the end zone. If you want to hope he gets a cheap little 1 or 2 yard rushing score, you could look there. But the two I would really lock in on are Alvin Kamara and Juwan Johnson.
I mean, right now, if you wanted to, you can bet under 1.5 touchdowns for both teams plus 160 for Denver, plus 140 for the Saints. So if you think they both only score one touchdown tonight, you're getting plus odds on both of those.
Mm-hmm.
So not a bad win there. I know they have no touchdowns scored. We've looked at this one before. Let's see. TD scores, either player exact is no touchdowns. Let's see. Players to not score. That's not what we're looking for. I know they have it because I not only did we do it, we actually got it right last year. Myself and Howard Bender. It was when Arizona had who's that rookie quarterback that they played last year? It was against Cleveland.
Oh, Clayton Tune.
Clayton Tune. We bet no touchdowns for Arizona, and it came through. So take a look if you want to do no touchdowns. But if you want to do under 1.5 touchdowns for Denver and under 1.5 touchdowns for the Saints tonight, you're getting 160 plus 140 tonight. So kind of interesting there. KP says he's 1-5, need to make some moves. KB, last year I started a league 0-3, came back and won. So I know it's a little different. You're 1-5 here, but as you're saying, need to make some moves. Certainly can go ahead and make some moves. Never quit on your lineup. Always be active on the waiver wire and, be willing to make some trades like you're obviously doing. And I think you made a great trade there. Getting Hall. Neighbors supposed to be back this week. And Darnell Mooney was one of my favorite sort of late round wide receiver grabs. Guy had 1,000 yards a couple of years ago coming over. Once Rondale Moore got hurt and it kind of really solidified Darnell Mooney as that wide receiver 2 in that offense. I was a big fan of that play there. So good luck to you, obviously, man. And hopefully things continue to turn around for you. Let's see here. Got a question in our Discord. I don't know if JK is watching or not, but his wants to know, would you trade David Montgomery and Jordan Addison for Jahmyr Gibbs? So you're swapping Lions running backs and also giving up Jordan Addison.
I think if you have the wide receiver depth, you could consider it, but I know Jahmyr Gibbs is the bigger name, but I don't know how you move away from David Montgomery right now. With how good this Detroit offense is, they should be playing with the lead more often than not. And if you start looking at some upcoming games for them, good one here with the Vikings. Mm-hmm. Next week, they get the Titans. That's a David Montgomery show. Then they get the Packers and Texans, so those will be closer games. Then they get Jacksonville and Indy. That's the David Montgomery show. Bears, Packers, Bills, Bears. There are some good matchups there. I don't know if throwing in Jordan Addison to move up from Montgomery to Gibbs is necessarily worth it. I don't see a reason to move away from Montgomery right now. They just paid him. His role is solidified. Gibbs is sexier, but Montgomery has just been too darn good to move away from.
Montgomery scored a touchdown every game this season. So someone had tweeted out earlier, if you had bet a parlay on David Montgomery, Kyren Williams, anytime touchdown every week so far this season, you'd be up like 40 units or something like that, depending on what it is. So this week you want to parlay them. They're both minus 190, but that means a plus 130 on them both to score a touchdown. So if you were to do that parlay. Also wants to know, can we get advice on his lineup or rate for a trade? Give us your lineup. We'll do our best to help you out here, man. I can't really tell you who you should trade for or add unless you give us an idea of who you're going after, though. We can't really have open-ended questions here. So if you're saying I want to trade X for X, what do we think? We can give you some advice there, but I can't really look at your roster and say trade this guy for this guy because it takes two to tango. The other owner may not want a deal. So if you have any trades out there or trades to you, let us know. We can help you out there. If there's some guys on the waiver wire that you're looking to maybe add or drop, we can help you there as well. So go ahead and throw some questions. Obviously, the game starts at 8:00 here tonight. We can hang around for a little bit longer. So get your questions in if you got them. Again, Kobe and I are here to help you guys from DFS, season long, betting, you name it. We're here, for the next, as long as you guys need us for. So we'll give it a couple of more minutes. What else are you looking forward to here this week? If you're taking a look at some of the matchups on the board, anything in particular? Obviously, you do the wide receiver coach over at Fantasy Alarm. What are some of the primary matchups you're looking to take advantage of?
Yeah, well, we won't have it on the main slate. Again, anybody against Jacksonville, so a lot of the Patriots guys are in store. If I'm going to rapid fire this, you want slot receivers against Atlanta, so I like Jackson Smith and Jigba a good bit. If the Titans had a competent quarterback, Tyler Boyd would be in a good spot. I prefer T. Higgins to Jamar Chase this week in that matchup against the Browns because Higgins will see more Martin Emerson. That's the one you want. Texans Packers, that game's going to cruise past the over. AJ Brown's in store for a monster day. If Cooper Kupp comes back, he's going to get 15 plus targets because why not? That's just what Matthew Stafford does. And then Panthers Commanders, it's a little bit concerning with Deontay Johnson. I believe he missed practice again today, which is interesting because that game is going to be very, very interesting because it's going to be the Panthers are going to throw it all over Washington. But the Washington's going to eat so much clock because Carolina can't stop a nosebleed on the ground. So they're going to move the ball at
Brian
will.
Robinson expected back this week, so that they're just going to feed him. So
that first quarter could look like a 5-minute touchdown drive for Carolina, and then Washington goes down on like 11 plays, 8 of which are runs. They score, and then Panthers get 4 plays, and then next it's the end of the first quarter, and it's 7-7. That's what that game is setting up to be. But a lot of good matchups on the board in that Detroit-Minnesota game. I don't know how many fantasy points Justin Jefferson's going to go for.
Yeah, I will comment on one thing with Deontay Johnson is he has kind of had this same sort of practice trend this season. He had that little injury scare. I think it was in week 2.
He just doesn't want to play. He just doesn't want to practice.
He doesn't. Right. He's got the veteran Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. If he logs a limited practice tomorrow, he's good to go. That's what for me. And I've said this a few times with Bender on the DFS show. I look for Deontay Johnson on the Friday practice report. If it says limited, he's going to play. If he's out, then I have some concerns. I would expect to see him on the practice report tomorrow out there in a limited fashion, and then he'll go get his 10 targets on Sunday and against a very bad Commanders defense there. So Ralph wants to know Richardson, Geno Smith, or Darnold this week. I'm all in on Darnold here against Detroit this week. What are your leans?
Absolutely. Detroit, 4th most fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. What does Minnesota have? Good wide receivers. And Minnesota's defense should be able to at least stop some of the lengthier drives that Detroit tends to have because they have so much success on the ground. So I don't think Detroit will be able to eat up as much clock. But like I said, past couple games for these two teams have gone 50 plus. If that's the case, I want Darnold. And actually, Geno would be my next up after Darnold. Anthony Richardson's a clear number 3 for me out of this trio.
Yeah, I agree with you. We got Spubsy here. Got Bub Means or play Leggett or Whittington. I don't mind Leggett here, honestly. In that matchup against the Commanders. If you were again, I think Dalton rather is in a really good spot to throw the football this week. Whittington, I obviously like, but if Cooper Kupp is back, then it's gonna be difficult for me to trust he's gonna get the same level of target share. So I think Leggett would be my play here.
I would agree with you. I don't think you need to play Bub Means tonight because even if Cooper Kupp comes back, I think Jordan Whittington has done enough to show that he is one of their top receiving options. If it were up to me, I would have Whittington, Kupp, and Demarcus Robinson as the 3 receivers. We'll have to see if Sean McVay sees it that way. But I don't think you have to start Bub Means tonight just in case because one, Leggett's carved out a role. And maybe if Deontay doesn't practice, which doesn't really matter for him, but doesn't play, Leggett is facing one of the most generous secondaries as the true wide receiver 1. So I would probably be fine with Leggett. I don't think you have to play Bub Means tonight.
Yeah. Here's Austin's lineup here. CJ and Dak, doubled up neighbors, Amon Ra, Wandale Harrison. I mean, you're kind of this is a 10-team PPR. Taylor, Henry, Jones, Tank. So you're probably looking at running back for this week because no Taylor, no Jones. Tank Bigsby, though, against the Patriots. I don't know if you watched Houston. They ran all over the Patriots. So probably okay there. Ingram, Bowers, Pitts. I
would trade Ingram and Pitts, maybe try to see if you can get a running back, float both out there and see just to give you another option at running back. Yeah. But 2 good quarterbacks. You have multiple good wide receivers. You're basically going to gain a stud receiver once Tua comes back in Jalen Waddle. I don't think you need 3 tight ends, though. I think you float. I'm not giving up Bowers. So I would float out Ingram or Pitts and see what running back you can get.
Yeah, in a 10-team league, I mean, there's obviously depth to be had there, but I think you could probably move some of those guys and make an upgrade there. So, but I mean, good team. I'm not really trying to say. PPR Kupp and Brian Robinson both play. Who would you play?
Oh,
in a PPR flex.
Yeah, the PPR makes Kupp really attractive, but it also scares me to death.
Targets in week 1.
I know it scares me to death though, because ankles can be so finicky and working his way back. And I still think you go Cooper Kupp. but that is more so a vote of confidence toward Cup than any sort of like downgrade to Brian Robinson, because against Carolina, there's not many better matchups on the board. But I just think you can't sit Cup if he
I'd love to
plays.
know the rest of the roster there, Ralph, honestly, because Brian Robinson's like one of my favorite plays of the week. So, good drafting. That's your decision-making process here this week. And then Geno or Stroud. No biases here for Colby being the Houston Texans fan.
Yeah.
I do think I would still go Stroud though against the Packers. Just Diggs, Tank Dell, better offense. I think it's gonna be a bit of a shootout. Geno's obviously the league leader in passing yards, but 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions on the year. Yet to have a multi-touchdown game for the passing leader feels, interesting. So, give me Stroud in this spot. Should be a good one between him and Love going back and forth there. Deprints on FanDuel, favorite MVP for showdowns. Where do you think you're going to go here, Colby?
It has to be Kamara. I can't imagine not having him in that spot. Like I said, whether they go up 14 or down 14, he's getting the ball, and he's still the best playmaker they have. So I'm just locking in Kamara in that spot, not even thinking twice.
Yeah, again, I'm sure that he is very expensive here tonight to build a showdown lineup around, but I think you kind of have to do that. Let's build a showdown lineup. Actually, let's see what we can. Let's just put the practice into exercise here. We'll hide the chat. We'll bring up the screen. Get a little DraftKings showdown build here. Zoom in so everybody can see what we're looking at. So if we did Kamara, the highest price play here, is this like a kicker day? Do we double up on kickers? Like, what do you, or defenses and defenses and kickers building up this lineup here, Colby? What do you think?
I mean, we do have a Will Lutz revenge game, if I'm not mistaken.
We do, yeah.
On the board. I think it's something to consider. I'm still going to just say it for a third time. I'm going Juwan Johnson. I want to get him in there. And honestly, I'm pulling it up on my phone so I can see it too. But I might honestly go Valet. All he does is get targeted every time he plays. We get the PPR and DraftKings. So I don't think
Broncos defense, and it gives us 10-9. That just gives us Sutton. So we do Kamara and Johnson, and we figure to be the 2 potentially higher volume Saints plays here. I know the Broncos defense maybe seems a bit counterintuitive to Alvin Kamara, but I think the Broncos can still put up defensive points and have Kamara have a good day. Example lineup here, something we just kind of threw together quickly, but I don't hate it, right? You're getting the primary ball catchers for Denver here. You got their kicker for when those drives eventually stall out, and you got the defense. So that came together a little bit easier than I was expecting, but I definitely don't hate that. So
yep, I like it.
I like that as well. So guys, just an example for DraftKings for your showdown lineups here. Kamara, Lutz, Johnson, Valet, Broncos, and Cortland Sutton. Where's Memes down here? Memes is 4K, so super cheap. I mean, this is going to be a slate where you're probably going to have money left over. I'll just say that. If you're going to build it out, this is using max salary, but good chance if you use any of the other guys, you're going to have some cash left over there. So couple more questions here from everybody tonight. Ralph giving us his lineup. He's got Brees, Kamara, Jefferson, and A.J. Brown. Would you start Robinson over Kamara and Brees? I'd probably not. But if you had a lean, maybe over Brees Hall.
I don't think I would do it if you get to Sunday and you're like, I almost need to chase upside or something. You could maybe make the decision then. Kamara is the one I'm definitely playing.
Yeah.
I'm locking him in. So it would come down to Robinson Jr. or Brees. I don't quite think I can get there, but it's also one of those things where I understand running backs against Carolina. It's a very good spot. I've already said once they get inside the 5-yard line, it is.
They gave up 100 yards to Tyler Algier and 95 to Bijan Robinson last week. So
yeah, I would understand it. I still think you go Kamara and Brees though.
Yep. So it makes sense why you're deciding between Kupp and Brian Robinson, because you have Jefferson, Brown, Brees, and Kamara. So good drafting for you there, Ralph. Do you think it'll be a Saquon show this weekend? He's got A.J. Brown. Would you rather A.J. Brown or Higgins? I I mean, I do think that Saquon will score because revenge game. Why not? I still probably play AJ Brown, but what do you think here?
Over in the DFS coach, I have T. Higgins in my mid-tier plays, but AJ Brown is in my play of the week. So I am going with AJ Brown just because it's such a good matchup. He came back nearly 60% of the team's air yards last week in that game. And also, if you look, guess what team just so happens to be the worst defending passes 20 plus yards downfield? It is the Giants. AJ Brown is dominant downfield, and Jalen Hurts will throw it to him. So AJ Brown has a very realistic chance of being the wide receiver 1 overall this Sunday, and I wouldn't bat an eye.
Yep, I'm with you there. Then we got we starting the Packers, the Chargers, the Saints, or the Jags for defense here this week. Definitely not Jacksonville. You got the Saints tonight. You got the Chargers taking on who do the Chargers got this week?
Cardinals.
Yeah, Cardinals.
Ugh.
And Packers at Houston. Not going to do that one. Might be the Saints tonight. Honestly,
I think it would be the Saints. I mean, if you're simply just going to go at over-unders and let Vegas make the decision, you're at 47.5 in Texans, Packers. I mean, 42.5 Patriots, Jaguars, but you just can't start Jacksonville's defense at all.
No.
And you got the Chargers. They're down at 43.5 to 44, depending where you look. And then
37.5 for tonight. So
yeah, so I think let Vegas tell you. So I go Saints.
Yep, I'm going to go Saints there. So Steven, good luck with you. Good luck, everybody, tonight. Again, NFL Week 7 kicks off. We got Thursday Night Football. Appreciate you all tuning in with us. Make sure you tune back in Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Myself and Andrew Cooper taking you through roster lock. 10 a.m. to 11, Bender and Cooper on Sirius XM. You can get us in the Discord. Follow us over on XTC at Colby R. Conway. Go check out Fantasy Spin, by the way. Fantasy Spin was pretty cool. It's a little pretty addicting. Loved it. You can go check out my video I did with Colby earlier this week. For the main slate, Malin and Colby broke down your Thursday night football. I can't imagine what that lineup looked like when it was all said and done, but you can go check that out there as well. Good luck again, everybody, in your